Today, we're going to look at ways to break the ice with new kids entering into your home for new foster parents. So I want to give a shout out to Ethan Townsend 458 for asking this question of how do you break the ice with new foster kids and trying to make a connection, and where do you start? What do you say? What do you do? So the first one is to have a movie if you are a single foster parent or even a married foster parent set and you don't have kids in the house. Have a movie that is reasonable for adults to be watching, but a age-appropriate movie that a kid would enjoy. I highly recommend a comedy, something that's funny. Have that paused in the background as you eagerly await the child to come in to welcome them into the home. There's a setup that's happening so that you can make the environment more welcoming once the caseworker leaves. And that's actually really important. They need to kind of see that you are already doing something and you plan to go back to doing that. And it's something that the child can choose to easily engage in as well. If you have other kids in the house, an alternative to having a movie just set up to be able to be viewed by everybody, and that's still a good thing if you have other kids in the house, is the kids engaging in a game that's relatively quick, like a card game or something that's relatively fast, fluid, has short rounds that other people can come in and out of the game. Or have the kids playing video games where somebody could at least watch, maybe for a round or two, that child playing a video game. Or something to the effect of the kids are in an activity that looks natural for the environment and not forced. Anything that's age appropriate in those realms, like perhaps watching YouTube shorts, that kind of spans a lot of different ages. And if they're funny ones, even better. Okay, now the child's arrived, the parents are there eagerly awaiting, and everybody walks in. The first tendency is going to be for the adults to really engage that caseworker after saying hi to the child, of course. Fight that tendency, fight that natural feeling of wanting to connect to that adult first and remember your priority is the child. The caseworker will wait. Now, is the caseworker going to want to get through paperwork and get out of there relatively fast? They absolutely are, but your priority is the child. So the first thing that you need to do, welcome them, have them, take off their shoes. They may or may not want to take off their coats. Now, if your household wears shoes throughout the house, then that's perfectly fine. But don't force anything around a coat or anything like that to necessarily come off. Offer it. Next thing you want to do is give them a fast, and I mean very fast, tour of the house. Make the caseworker come along. This is an adult, even though they may not have a connection to that caseworker, it's at least an adult they've at least spent a little bit of time around. So everybody doing that journey together is a positive thing for the child. It's a little bit more familiar in an extraordinarily unfamiliar situation. Show the child where they can see the main rules of the house. Main rules of the house shouldn't be more than 10, ideally less than 5, right? And it's something that's posted where everybody can see it, and it doesn't have to be complex. It can be really, really simple, but just the main rules of the house. Again, I would strongly urge having 5 or less, certainly no more than 10. Once you've done with that quick tour, they see where the rules are posted in the house, take them to where they're going to be sleeping. At this point, again, age appropriate, what I tend to present them with is a travel size deodorant, toothbrush, a normal toothbrush that's age appropriate, a short little tube of toothpaste, some basic soaps like you would get at a hotel, again, all travel size. And as soon as I present that to them, say, hey, this is just for today, maybe for tomorrow. I want to go with you to the store and buy you what you like. Do that. Please do that. You are instantaneously giving them not only comfort because you're engaging with them on what they like, but you're also giving them options. You're giving them that ability to have some say, and that gives them some control. And ultimately, do you really care what soap or shampoo they're using? Probably not, right? It doesn't really affect you, and it gives them something that gives stability and something into the future for them to look forward to. I try to ask the caseworker ahead of time if they know what type of snacks are the child's favorite. A lot of times they may not, and that's okay. But you give them some type of little snack. Now, I wouldn't say the little individual bags, but maybe a slightly bigger bag, but not a big bag of like Doritos or something to that effect. Have that there for them. It's specifically for them. And a lot of people don't like kids eating in the room, and that's fine. If you don't like kids eating in the room, say, hey, we're gonna set these into the kitchen. These are specially for you. And maybe some type of lemonade or just even bottled water is usually good. It's something that they have access to that's specifically for them. And that is, one, again, showing interest in them, and two, giving them a little bit of ownership, even though it's really minor at this point, into the home. The next thing that I usually try to cite is we're going to have lunch at 1 p.m. Whatever it is, it could be dinner, whatever the next major thing that you want them to actively engage in, and I highly recommend that it's a meal. You're gonna see that, food is amongst the best ways to connect with kids. Have that set up. Tell them the time for that expectation. From there, ask them, what would you like to do? Do you need a couple of minutes by yourself? Do you want to potentially take a shower? Do you want to come with the caseworker and us and sit at the table and finalize this paperwork? Ask them what they want to do and then allow them to do it. Chances are they may just want to chill out. Let them chill out. You can even offer to say, we'll check in with you after the caseworker leaves, just so that you're setting that expectation. But ask them if you want them to do that, or if when they're ready, they just want to come out, reminding them again that lunch is at 1 o'clock. If the child said you, as the parents, they don't want you to come and check on them again, the caseworker will go and check on them one more time and say goodbye. Might be a good opportunity to plant the seed with the caseworker of, oh, by the way, I think they're watching a movie, or some of the other kids were doing X, Y, and Z. You can go participate if you want, and just leave it at that. The first meal, if the child has elected to eat their snack, I allow them to really not eat. That's okay for that first meal. They may have had food before they came. They may be kind of full. They may have wanted that snack, and that's all that they really want to do. Don't pressure the first meal, but do have them come to that first meal. Keep it kind of light. And the next big thing that I would highly recommend is during that meal, everybody says names a lot. If you have more than 3 people in the house, everybody's saying everybody's name. Now, if it's a child, obviously they're potentially saying mom or dad. But if it's another foster kid, maybe they are calling out Mr. George or Miss Elizabeth or whatever it is, and that's fine. But make sure everybody's saying names a lot so that familiarity is already starting to get incorporated. I do recommend having a dessert, even if the child didn't participate in the meal. Ice cream is usually a big winner for most people, or maybe some brownies or whatever it is that is acceptable for any potential allergen that the child might have. But you would already know that. But a dessert's a good thing. Going to get dessert with the kid, if that's a possibility, even if it's in the middle of the day, you can still have a dessert after lunch. Like going to get ice cream is a good way for everybody to be in a little bit more of a confined space and going to do something, and they get to choose what they want. Don't underestimate the power of that ability to choose for themselves something, even if it's relatively minor, especially if it doesn't really affect the family. Even if it's something as simple as what color cup they want. especially for a little kid. That's really powerful. The most powerful thing that you can do is, and it has to be age appropriate, is to tell the child what you know about them. It shouldn't be long, but you should be honest. I know that you came from a home where this happened. I know this has happened to you. I know that you're allergic to this, or whatever is in their case history that you know off the top of your head. Don't study, don't read. It's whatever's off the top of your head. And then follow that statement of what you know about them with, that's all that I know. And I'm not going to ask anybody else anything else about you. I want to learn with you. And on top of that, just to be fair, here's some things that you should know about me. And then rattle off a few things. It doesn't have to be a lot. I want you to keep in mind throughout the entire process that you should be using the 5 C's of communication, right? And those are remaining calm, being caring, be very clear, very concise, and very consistent. That is where the bonding and that relative relationship is going to start to build. If you go too far, too fast, they're going to just shut down. That's not what you're looking for, but at the same time, it's really easy to go too far, too fast because you don't want to screw it up. You need to get this right. You can't traumatize the child anymore, right? And that's something that is different between newer foster parents than more seasoned foster parents. Is the more seasoned foster parents have gone through this and they realize it's going to be a challenge in that initial setup to kind of screw it up, as long as you are remaining calm, caring, clear, concise, and consistent, with the focus being on what that child needs. And what that child needs is stability. They will very naturally start to interact with you. Somebody out there is probably thinking it, well, I've never really been around kids. I don't know how to interact with kids. Let me give you the first bit of advice that I give anybody that's coming into fostering. They're kids, they're young, but they're still humans. So your ability lies within the fact of you know how to communicate with other people who are stable. If you give them stability first, the communication will be there. Second piece of advice is play is important. It is fundamental to who we are. That is why, as that child is coming in, they need to see that on the TV there was a movie or kids are playing. They need to see that. That's that initial, whatever it is, that is going to ground them. It's phenomenal if you have other kids in the house, biological or foster, it really doesn't matter, because that's where they're going to get that stability, even if it's just initially watching somebody else play a game. They'll eventually start to get involved. And then if it's another kid in the house, have that kid say to them, hey, do you want to play too? They don't have to pressure it. They don't have to do anything. Just, hey, do you want to play too? And kind of go with it. That's where you're going to get some of that stability, that initial transaction. If you don't have that in your house, again, that movie where they can kind of stand there and watch, or maybe sit down on a couch, whatever it is, and just watch with you. If it is a movie that's playing and everybody's kind of watching it, don't engage in conversation. Just let them be with you, and then you can start that relationship a little bit easier. Ethan Townsend 458, I hope I answered your question. If anybody else has any questions, please let me know.